everyone, welcome to my growing garden. The garden is fully planted right now and I'm super excited to take you on my first garden tour. Alright, so this here is my potato bed. I planted two different types of potatoes, and of course I didn't write down which kinds they were, but there's a purple variety in this row and then half of this row, and then a fingerling variety in the other 2 rows, or the other 1.5 rows. I've already mounded them up once with some straw. I'm probably going to do it one more time before just letting them go, but they're doing really well. And then this is the full view of the garden. So these 2 beds here, I built them maybe 2 years ago. I think this is the 3rd year. So as you can see, they're full of grass. This one is the strawberry bed, and there's also some garlic planted as well. As you can tell, it's a super windy day today. But I had way more garlic planted here, but the deer got into the garden in the fall last year, so they ate quite a bit of it. I think I have 7 garlic bulbs left. So not ideal, but not bad. So I actually ended up planting some more strawberries in here. I do have to weed this bed. There's also some snapdragons and some tulips. The tulips are done for the summer already because it's so warm. And then the snapdragons are just starting to take off. And then over here, this is kind of my cut flower bed, but I decided to actually plant a bunch of onions in here as well. So there's about 60 onion bulbs in this bed. And then flower-wise, we have, I'm just gonna go over here. So flower-wise, this is a delphinium that I planted last year actually, and then we got a really late frost and it kind of killed everything in this bed, but they came back. And so did this peony here. As you can tell, there's a lot of grass in this bed as well. And then we have snapdragons, marigolds, calendula, sunflowers. There's tulips in here too. And then this is pretty exciting here. But the first little nasturtium leaf has come up, so that's pretty exciting. And this year I'm pretty excited about these 2 arch trellises. So last year I had a single arch trellis, and then I couldn't find, so windy, I couldn't find another cattle panel anywhere. Everyone was sold out, I guess, because of the pandemic. I don't know if production lines have just been halted. So I decided to build one out of sticks from the yard. I had to add some T-posts just to make it a little bit more sturdy, but so far it's held up pretty well with all this wind. So these 3 beds I actually made this year. I did Charles Dowding's no-till garden. So I laid down cardboard over this entire space because I just had so much grass growing in the garden that I needed to do something about it. Tilling just wasn't working. So I'm trying Charles Dowding's no-till garden this year to just see how it goes. So far so good. I'll start down this road just so I can talk about some of the stuff that I'm noticing. So this bed I made, it's been about just over a month since this bed was made. And you could probably see that there are some areas like right there and then further down, there is grass growing through already. But that being said, it's not terrible. This is something I can handle. It's taken me about a half an hour to weed the entire garden. So far, not too bad. These 2 cages here, I have 2 Berries Crazy cherries growing. I know people hate these tomato trellises, but I don't hate them. I think that they serve their purpose. Tomatoes don't get huge where I'm from. They might fill up this entire trellis, but they usually don't get that much bigger. Oh, and I should also mention that these are lemongrass. And then I have a little sunflower planted here. This is a red Pro-Cut sunflower. And then these two here are lemon squash. Then in the middle these two are Burgess squash. And then these down here are just regular sized pumpkins. As we keep going down, I have some firecracker vines here, which make these really pretty flowers that look like firecrackers, and apparently the hummingbirds love them. So I have them all planted around this trellis, which I want you to see in all its glory here. It's not bad for my first trellis and my first like wood making item. So in this back area I have I think they're called winged peas that I got from Baker Creek. They're just planted in behind there. I don't think anything's come up. I don't think that that's a pea. I think it's a weed. I just haven't weeded it yet. And then along here I have some loofah squash growing. Some of it's doing better than others. Like this one's not doing too bad. And then in the middle here I have a dahlia flower that I've kind of just secured to the post just to keep it upright. Then here I have another firecracker vine. And then this area has been a little bit of a work in progress here. So there's beets and carrots planted. I've had to re-sow these multiple times. I planted everything about a week and a half ago and it got really hot. We had like our last frost date on Monday, and then on Tuesday we had a heat warning for like 5-6 days in a row. So it's been quite warm. So these just started germinating. There's one little carrot. I don't know if you can see the carrot there. Yeah, so there's one little carrot, and I have black nebula carrots and I think Karuta, both from Baker Creek. And then I did see, or I thought I saw, I think this is a beet here that's finally growing. So hopefully we'll see some more, but this area is the worst so far for grass. As you can see, there's quite a bit of it that I'm going to have to weed tomorrow and later today. And then down here we have some corn growing. This is a honey and cream variety. And then there's some giant sunflowers here. So I was actually going to talk about this. So I noticed that my sunflowers and my peppers have started to turn yellow, like I just showed you. And at first I thought it was a watering issue. So I know that both of these types of plants don't like to have their feet wet or their roots really soggy. So I thought maybe it had to do with something about the no-till garden and the cardboard being underneath, and maybe that was not letting water escape or drain. But I actually got my soil tested because I wasn't noticing a difference after, not watering these plants. So I got my soil tested this week, and it turns out that this soil that I got, or this compost that I got from a really reputable source, has a really high pH. So it has a pH of 7.9, which is really high. So this compost is really alkaline, and then it has really high levels of nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus, which isn't great to have those nutrients in excess, but I don't think that's what's causing this issue. Another thing that this compost had was really low levels of the micronutrients, so things like zinc and iron. So I think the combination of the really high pH and the lack of micronutrients is what's causing my plants to turn yellow. So far I've only really noticed it on the sunflowers and peppers. So hopefully it doesn't also affect my other plants, but yeah, I'm just gonna have to wait and see. So I'm gonna actually make a video of how I plan to amend the soil. by adding more micronutrients to it and trying to lower the pH of the soil as well, just because a high pH makes it difficult for the plants to absorb any micronutrients that are in the soil. So the combination of both of those, it's not great. So if you've experienced this before, I'd love to hear what you did and how it went. So if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below and we can chat and try to figure this out together. All right, so in this middle bed here, I have some peppers and tomatoes. So for the peppers, we have the Brazilian starfish, then the piquinho, then there's a shishito, a banana pepper, a jalapeno, a lemon spice jalapeno, a padron pepper, a poblano, a sugar rush peach, and then a Lecia. I never know how to pronounce that. So, but what's cool is that these already have some large peppers on them. So being in zone 3, I actually had to start my peppers in February. So these plants were all started end of February, early March. And then the tomatoes I started, I think, at the beginning of April, if I'm not mistaken. And then the peppers on the other side of the bed here match the ones I just said. So they're the same varieties in the same order. And then for the tomatoes, I have a tomato called a big tomato. My mother-in-law gave it to us, the seeds. They're quite large tomatoes, like probably a pound. I don't know what variety they are. I've just been calling them big tomatoes since she got them for us. Then we have sweetie, cherry tomatoes, gladiator romas, a couple San Marzano tomatoes, sakura, which are my husband's favorite little cherry tomatoes, a couple of those, and then a gladiator and another big tomato. So you can see that I'm doing the Florida weave here. I'm not convinced that I love this yet. Last year I did the trellis where you have like your T-posts and then you have a bar that goes across the top, and then you drape the strings down and tie them at the bottom and then kind of just twirl them up. I didn't actually mind doing it that way, but I want to see what the Florida weave was like, and I don't know that I love it. I find that the tomatoes are kind of leaning, as you can see, and I also find that the twine is rubbing the tomatoes, and I'm not sure if that's great, especially if they get wet. So I might actually end up going back and doing the method I did last year, just to make sure that these don't all fall over at the end of the season when they're covered in tomatoes. But I like the way it looks, but it's just been so windy here that I just don't think that these are gonna hold up. I wanted to just come over here and show you. So it's kind of hard to see in this video, but if you can compare those two peppers, you can kind of see that this one here is a little bit more yellow. And I mean, it's not terrible. It's definitely still green, and it's producing fruit. So I think this is the jalapeno. You can see that there's still, I mean, there's a pepper growing. It's definitely grown since I've planted it, but it looks like it's missing something. So I'm gonna see if this soil amendments that I plan on doing help in any way. So if I keep walking this way, here's all the peppers. And this is another one that's kind of getting a little yellow, but it is producing. This is a Sugar Rush peach, and you can see that there's a lovely little yellow pepper there, which is pretty cool. And then this is a dahlia that I started way too early, and I planted it out, tried to stake it, and it snapped. So I didn't do this side of that trellis. So on these sides we have, well, I guess I didn't even really talk, oh yeah, I did talk about the loofahs. But on this side I have birdhouse gourds, and then I have another dahlia planted in the middle. And then I kind of just scattered flower seeds all over the garden. So I'm hoping that there's a lot of flowers growing. This middle area has cosmos and sunflowers, I think some marigolds too. These sunflowers just sprouted. And I mean, they're a little yellow. Like if you look at that one there, the new flowers are a little yellow. So I mean, that one doesn't look too bad. So we'll see how these ones do. The ones at the end of the bed definitely don't look great, but maybe everything will bounce back. So over here we have Kajari melons. We have a couple growing here that I'm wanting to grow on the trellis. This is another dahlia. Then on this side of the trellis, I have, these are cuckoozy squash. And then another dahlia. And once again, there's a bunch of flowers kind of scattered all over. You can see here that I need to put some more wood chips to cover the cardboard. And then here, I had a bunch of different melons growing here, but some of them died and then I replaced them. So I think right now this is a lemon, like a lemon drop melon, something along those lines. I can't remember what that one is, but it's also a melon, maybe a honeydew. And then this one I got recently at a store, so it's just a little mini love watermelon. And then this one here that just sprouted is a sugar baby. And then yeah, I already talked about this. So this is cilantro and dill in this corner, and then sunflowers at the end of the. So here I have 4 tomatoes. I just have these staked on bamboo stakes for right now. I might use tomato cages or larger stakes as they get bigger, but I just wanted to secure them because the wind has just been crazy over the last couple days. But the back 2 tomatoes are indigo rose tomatoes. So they're just like tiny, kind of like, I guess you could call them a cherry tomato. They're small and then they turn purple. And then this one is a sun gold, which is doing pretty well. And then this one here is called a monster tomato. Let's see what it's called. Oh yeah, it's called a monster. So it's apparently really large tomatoes. Never grown it before. I saw it at the store and I decided to give it a try. So if I walk down this way, there's 2 zucchini. That one just sprouted. That one originally died. I just planted a new seed. And then this one's doing pretty well. I swear it grew like 2 leaves just today. And then these 2 are the Englisher custard squash. And then these 2 are just regular butternut squash. And then I was trying to cover these Brussels sprouts up because if I can zoom in here, you might get a load of all of these lovely critters. Who doesn't love flea beetles? So they're doing some serious damage here. I just kind of try to get most of them off. It's hard to film this, so I'm just gonna put this down here. So just trying to cover those up as best as I can until the flea beetles go somewhere else. I guess I don't have that many brassicas in the garden, so I haven't noticed them that much, but they're definitely liking these Brussels sprouts. And then I had bought some flowers. I can't remember what kind of flowers they were, but the flea beetles completely decimated them. Like there's nothing left. So yeah, they're not the greatest pests to deal with. They're not fun. But yeah, the rest of the garden hasn't been really affected by them. So if I lose these 2 Brussels sprouts, it's not the end of the world. And then here I have another little patch of tomatoes and peppers. Same varieties as over there, just in different orders. You can see that, yeah, these tomatoes. Oh, I guess I haven't noticed these yet. First, can you see those tomatoes of the season? That's really exciting. Yeah, like the tomatoes don't look like they're really affected by the soil at all, but the peppers, like these little ones, these are also started in February, but I just kept them in their 1-inch cells. These are just extras that I had. I always forget how big this garden is. And then this is salt and pepper. I should probably water this one here. These are salt and pepper cucumbers, if you can see them there. And then some more corn. You can see there, some more corn. There's a lot coming up here. So something I told you was wrong. I'm actually really excited about this. One of my colleagues gave it to me, and I think it's called an Iran squash. Look how big these cotyledons are. I think these are like the biggest squash leaves I've ever seen, so I'm really excited to see how big this squash gets. And I just noticed the same colleague gave me a broad bean. Is that what they're called? I think they're called broad beans. Or no, actually they were called dragon tongue beans. And as you can see, a cutworm, looks like a cutworm got to it. And then last but not least, in the garden, I have these lovely, let me make this a little clearer hopefully, these lovely sweet potatoes. I've never grown sweet potatoes before, so I have 3 slips here. This one doesn't look like it's doing too great, but these 2 are doing awesome. So yeah, I'm really excited. I just have them in, I think this is probably like a 15 to 20 gallon pot, so we'll see how they do, see how many I get at the end of the year. Well, thanks for joining me on my first garden tour of the season. If you're wanting to follow along, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I'll be posting all my hits and misses, my failures, and my successes throughout the year. So I look forward to hearing from you. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. I hope you have a great week in the garden, and I'll talk to you next time.